More maintenance talk, this time on Talking Vehicles with Joe. I've told you that I'm just doing a series of videos talking about taking care of your car, what kind of maintenance you should do, when you should do it, and how to determine what the right maintenance is. And of course, the goal is making your car last as long as possible and operate within the manufacturer's design specification, or in other words, making it work the way that it was designed to work and keeping it that way. This time I want to talk about oil. Now I know in a previous video I spent a little bit of time talking about oil and oil changes. I want to get a little bit more in depth into that now. And I think one of the things that I see debated quite often is how often should you change your oil? Well, of course, the manufacturer has a specification that you will find in the information they publish when you purchase the vehicle. You know, it used to be a printed owner's manual. Now a lot of times it's online, or it's somewhere on their website. But they will have a recommendation of time or mileage for oil change intervals. Again, I'm going to tell you that I will never recommend that you go beyond that time or mileage specification for a couple of reasons. Number one, I don't believe that that's a wise move. And number two, if the manufacturer recommends it, they have good reason to recommend it. And if you don't stick with it, particularly when your car is under warranty, it could cause you problems. But I also believe there are times where you're going to want to shorten up that interval and do it more often. And again, it depends on your goal for the vehicle, how long you want to keep the vehicle and how long you want it to last. If you're looking to get a significant high mileage, let's say more than 150,000, upwards of 200 or 250,000 miles, definitely the oil should be changed more frequently than what the manufacturer recommends. Because as you get towards the end of the life of the oil, there are more contaminants in the oil. The additive package in the oil is beginning to break down, and the oil is just not providing the same level of protection as it did when it was new and fresh. And that translates to increased wear in your engine. The oil has additive packages in it that help it flow at initial vehicle startup, that help keep it from breaking down or shearing under the heat and stress of a hot engine, and additives that help it clean up the byproducts of combustion, the dirt and filth that can occur from combustion, and keep it in suspension until it can get to the oil filter and be filtered out of the oil. And those additives break down over time. And by the way, it is time that will break down those additives. If you have a car that has brand new fresh oil in it and you sit it and park it for a year, that oil is not in as good of condition as it was when it was first dumped into the engine a year ago, even though the engine hasn't been run. So it's important to keep that in mind too. You know, the other thing that's really, really critical is most cars, most vehicles today, I should say, have a turbocharged engine. Not all of them, but many of them do. The turbocharger is lubricated by the engine oil. Turbochargers can spin at upwards of 20, 30, or even 40,000 RPMs. And even though the manufacturing of the bearings and the tolerances are very, very tight and very, very concise, they need good lubrication to protect them and keep them from wearing. And old oil just can't do the job like fresh oil does. So particularly if you have a turbocharged engine, I would highly recommend that you consider changing your oil more often than what the manufacturer recommends. Now, you don't have to go crazy. If the manufacturer recommends, let's say, every 7,500 miles, if you shorten that interval to somewhere around 5,000 or 6,000 miles, I think you're doing your turbocharger a favor and buying some extra life. Now, a lot of that depends on how the vehicle's operated. A lot of cold starts not warming the engine up, short trips, just where you make a quick short trip, you don't get the oil good and hot, because that will burn out a lot of the contaminants that form in the oil as a result of the engine operating. They would really demand more frequent oil changes than, say, a vehicle that's driven on the highway a lot and the engine gets up to operating temperature and is held there for a long time. Now, the other thing that I want to talk about with oil that's really, really critical, especially on today's engine, is a lot of them have what's called VVT, variable valve timing. And the way that system operates, it is critical for the proper weight of oil, the weight that the manufacturer recommends of oil to be used in the engine. Using an oil with a different weight or a different viscosity, the numbers that are on the can or the bottle that are like 0W20 or 5W30 or whatever it is, using a different viscosity of oil than what's recommended by the manufacturer can cause that system to not function properly. And when that happens, your engine won't run properly because the valves won't be set up with the proper timing. So it is really critical to stick to the manufacturer's recommendation for the viscosity rating or the viscosity weight of the oil. And I know that some people are looking at it and going, oh, that oil, that particularly modern engines, you'll see a lot of engines that are like 0W20 or 0W16. And folks that have been around for a long, long time look at that oil and say, man, that's almost like water coming out of that container. We need a heavier oil in it to provide better lubrication. And the engine's old, it's loosening up. But you run the risk of throwing the VVT system off and not functioning properly, and you don't want to do that. Stick with the manufacturer's recommended viscosity. Change the oil at least as often as the manufacturer recommends. To be honest with you, my cars have an oil life monitoring system. They tell me what percentage of oil life that I have left. I rarely let them get down below 25%. Usually somewhere between 30 and 25%, I'm getting an oil change. Yeah, it costs, I'm not squeezing every last ounce of life out of that oil. And oil changes today are, upwards of $100. They're a little more expensive than back in the old days when you could buy a 5 quarts of oil and a filter for 10 or 15 bucks for the whole package and do it yourself. Well, I'm probably dating myself now, huh? But anyways, I realize they're a lot more expensive, but engines today are really, really expensive too. And it's cheap insurance. Good quality oil, a good quality filter, stick with the manufacturer's recommended viscosity, change it at the very minimum as often as the manufacturer recommends. And more often if you have a high mileage goal for your engine, 150, 200,000 miles plus. And you'll see the real value, the real benefit of doing that. And the other thing too is your engine won't wear as quickly. You won't see consumption come up as quickly. So that's my recommendations for oil. Hey, thank you so much for watching. I hope this video was helpful for you. If you enjoyed it, if you liked it, if you think it will be helpful for someone, please like, share, and subscribe to the video. And keep your eyes open next week for another Talking Vehicles with Joe. I upload every Friday. My email's in the description if you want to talk a little more about cars, or if you want to discuss more of anything that has to do with maintenance, feel free to email me or put a comment in the video and I'll be happy to talk with you. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next Friday.